Hey Hermit, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dara and today I'm going to be doing the quarter year crisis book tag. So this tag is one that I've seen doing the rounds a little bit recently and it looks like fun, and I do like sort of reviewing, reflecting, checking in with myself. So this seemed like a great opportunity to do that. I have actually been filming like monthly wrap-ups of my reading and then just not posting them. So who knows when you will see this. Like, it is currently almost the end of April, so I'm already pretty late with this. And like I said, I have quite a backlog of videos filmed that I haven't published yet. So who knows? I should probably say happy December. Hello. Happy December. Today I'm going to be doing the quarter year book tag. And this tag was created by Rosie's Reading. I'll pop a link to her channel and to the original video in the description. So if you want to go and check that out and leave her some support, then that would be great. I know that she's actually a channel that I've discovered because of this tag. Like I said, I saw it doing the rounds, and so I clicked through and had a little look. And I like watching original tag videos, but then I'll always like go and just like have a little snoop through like their archives as well. And I really love her channel and the way that she talks about books. So she's been added to my subscriptions list, and I highly recommend you hop over and do the same. Anyway, let's get to these questions. So I'm going to answer these as if it is March 31st and not sometime in December or sometime in April. So the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? So as of March 31st, I had read 41 books, which I'm pretty impressed with. The goal that I originally set for myself for this year was 100. And then I actually decided to lower that because I saw, who was it who said this? I think it was Books with Brittany, but I might be wrong. Anyway, someone amazing that I watch said that each year the way that they set their Goodreads goal is by simply adding one to the previous year's reading. So if they read like 30 books the previous year, it'll be 31 books. If they read 103 books the previous year, it'll be 104 books. So because I read 90 books last year, I decided to switch my goal and make it 91 this year. And I'm pretty well on track with that if I've already read 41. So all that to say, pretty happy with my progress so far. Okay, question number 2. Have you already found a book you think might be a 2022 favourite? If not, what was your favourite book you read that wasn't quite 5-star? I've actually had quite a few 5-star books this year. I feel like I'm pretty liberal with the 5 stars. Like, I'm not one of these people who has like these really anal requirements to meet to get that like gold star standard. It's if it gives me that feeling, if I thoroughly enjoy it, if I don't really have any complaints, it gets a 5-star. And I'm not going to go into all of the books that I've awarded that honour to this year, but I'll share a few with you. So I remember back in January I read Wait for It by Mariana Zapata. So Mariana Zapata is known for writing slow burn romances. Most of her books are available via Kindle Unlimited. And I've read quite a few of her books now. And like the first couple that I read I loved, were like top tier. And then I read a whole bunch of pretty disappointing ones. But Wait for It was like the creme de la creme. I think it's my favourite so far. Because it just has all of the elements that I personally love in a romance, especially in a slow burn. So that was a 5-star for me. If you're interested in the plot at all, it tells the story of a young woman named Diana who moves into a new home with her 2 nephews who she is the guardian of due to a family tragedy. And on her like very first night, I think it's her first night in this home, like she's woken up because there's like a fight going on outside, and she goes and she like sort of chases off the attackers with a baseball bat, and there's like this broody beaten up guy. She takes him home, and he lives with this other guy, and then it's sort of about their relationship, and like the other guy ends up being the baseball coach of one of her nephews, and so they're very much in each other's lives, and like there's lots of feeling, there's lots of love, and that's just what I was really in the mood for in January. Another one of the 5-star reads that I've had this year I have to talk about this book, Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Bloor. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her surname correctly, but I loved this book. I was looking for something that would give me Daisy Jones vibes, because I've had that book on my heart since I finished it. I loved it so much. And Mary Jane is set in the same sort of time period. It's set, I believe, in the mid-70s in the suburbs of Baltimore. And it's about this young girl. I want to say she's like 14, 15-ish. And she's lived this very sheltered life. Like, her family is very conservative, all white neighborhood, just like this sort of like the stereotypical 70s suburban life that you see on like TV shows and in films and stuff like that. And one summer she gets a job to be like a nanny at this doctor's family. But what her parents don't know is this doctor is kind of bohemian. So first of all, he's Jewish, shock horror. Second of all, he is a psychiatrist, not a traditional doctor. And third of all, he specialises in working with people who have addictions. And during that summer, a famous rock star and his like celebrity wife are coming to stay with the family to undergo treatment. And so Mary Jane is exposed to this very alternative lifestyle and these people who have lived very different lives to her. And I loved it because it wasn't just about like them opening her eyes to the world. It was also about her bringing some sort of order and consistency and stability to the household too. And I just loved the relationships that sort of unfolded between all of the different characters in the book. And like the vibes were pristine, they were so there. I found loads of it really relatable. The way her eyes were opened to a lot of the realities of life and having to confront some really hard truths about her family and her family's values was just a really interesting read for me and something that I could really relate to. But I definitely recommend it, and I'll definitely be keeping my eyes open for more books by this author too. And then last but not least, I definitely have to mention my favourite series of the year so far, which is the Grip trilogy by Kennedy Ryan. So Kennedy Ryan is an author that I only discovered this year and I'm in love. Like, she again writes romances, and the Grip series tells the story of one couple. So it's one couple across 3 books. And the female is like this seemingly like ice queen debutante from New York. And the guy, Marlon, is this like up and coming rapper from Compton, and it's just sort of like looking at their relationship throughout the years from when they first meet, and they start off with a friendship, then they have a professional relationship, then they have maybe something more, then they like bounce between, like they have a various relationship statuses throughout the series, and it's just magical. It's stunning. The writing is beautiful. It tackles really like important topics. It's not just a romance. It's not fluffy. There is real substance to it, and I like loved my time reading it. I read all 3 books in less than a week. The third one had me crying actual tears, and I don't really cry when I read, so that's saying something. In fact, I don't think I've cried since like 2019. But the third book in the series still had me crying. Highly recommend. That was a lot of talking. I should move on to the next question. Okay. Oh, any 1-star books or least favourite book of the year? 2 immediately come to mind. So one was Blue Skies and Dragon Eyes by Amelia Barlow. And this was quite short. It was probably about 75-80 pages, something like that. And it was, I suppose we're going to call it a fantasy, but it was pure chaos. It was pure chaos. How that was published, I do not understand. Someone explain it to me. It was like, once upon a time, there was this really long book where lots of stuff happened. And a child read it, like maybe a 6 or 7-year-old read this very long book, and then someone asked this child what happened in the book, and then the child responded by like listing out all of the plot points, saying, and this happened, and then that happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. And then someone took the transcript of that child's explanation and turned it into this book. Like, it was... Make it make sense. And I actually am usually quite a confident DNFer of books, but because it was so short, I just finished it. But it was a waste of my time. Absolutely a waste of my time. And then the second book that I have to mention is Love or Duty by Rosie. And this was a historical fiction. And judging by the synopsis, I should have loved this book because it had all of the things in that I do adore, which is like the historical aspect of things. I love historical fiction. Romance, strong independent women, found family, like adopting a child from somewhere, like this, like all of these elements individually I love. But when I say that book was ridiculous, I'm not exaggerating. It was just, it annoys me thinking about it, because this one was not 70 pages long. This was like a full length novel, and I read it all. And I was always like waiting for something more, but all of the characters were excruciatingly annoying. The misogyny was like super strength. The plot made no sense. Like, it, you had to suspend your belief to such an extent that it wasn't doable. And like, there was, the conclusion was ridiculous. Like, it's like they gave you the first page of the last chapter and then just ended. Like, there was nothing, like nothing was wrapped up, nothing excuse me, nothing had a resolution. It was wildly frustrating to read. So those are my two low star books. Usually I don't have any 1 stars because like I said, if it looks like it's going to be that way, then I just DNF. But 2 have slipped through the net. 2 have slipped through the net. Most read genre so far. The next question, romance. Read a fair bit of romance this year. I think I've read 19 romances out of 41 books total, so it's almost half. Next question, a book that surprised you. Okay. I think there are a few that have surprised me in different ways. So, first of all, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I had high expectations for that. I thought that it was going to be like this wildly innovative, like shocking thriller. And while like it was fine, it was an easy read, it was fast paced, it wasn't as special as I had been led to believe. I think I'd heard so many people hype it up and talk about how like the twist is like something they'd never seen before, and oh my god, it was so radical and so different. And I've read it, and like I said, I enjoyed it, it was fine, but it just underwhelmed me slightly. The second book that surprised me, it has to be Angel and Hannah by Ashley Yee Park. And I read this for a readathon, and honestly, it's a great book. It's a short book, but it's a great one. It's a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but it's actually like done in poems. So it's not like one long novel in verse. It's like a collection of poems that give you this retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in the early 90s in New York between a Dominican man, Angel, and a Korean woman, Hannah. And I picked that book because I thought it was just going to be a fun time. And like, I know, like Romeo and Juliet, we know it's tragic, but I thought that this like 1990s retelling was going to give it some like fun and some drama and some levity, and I just thought it was gonna like be really nostalgic, but it was very, very hard hitting. It was very, very emotional, and I was actually really surprised that it could get me feeling the feelings that I was feeling in so few words. because these are like, it's a collection of short poems. Like I was just surprised that it got me in the emotions to that extent. But I would definitely recommend it. It was so, so good. And I've never seen anybody talk about it. I've never seen it mentioned anywhere else. Even like when I see people talk about all of the different Korean literature that they've been reading, it doesn't seem to get a mention, but it's amazing. It's so good. And then last but not least, I want to mention All We Left Unsaid by Natalie K. Martin. Now I actually got that book for free. So you know, if you have like an Amazon Prime account, then every month you get a new release for free. And that was one that I got at some point last year. And I don't know what I expected it to be. Not that, like, I think I expected it to be more of a romance, and it wasn't. It was like this study of sisterhood, but also regret, in terms of like, you always think that you have time to like make amends, to heal relationships, to spend time with the people you love, like all of these things. But then what if you don't? Like, what if one of your lives is cut short and you just have to deal with all of this unfinished business? And it was like this study of these two sisters, like one of which like dies on the first page. And they'd been estranged for I think 7 years, and it's sort of like studying their relationship through their history and how the surviving sister navigates that now that her younger sister has passed away. And it wasn't as like heart-wrenching as you would think from the way I describe it, because obviously like the scene is set, it happens on the very first page, so you know that her death is coming. But really seeing like sisterhood explored in that way was very interesting. It was very relatable for me, not because I've fallen out with my sister, but we probably don't make the effort to stay in touch as much as we should, because like we live quite far away, we both have very busy lives, we just don't prioritize it. And it really made me stop and think, no, do you know what, that's a relationship that's important to me and I want to give it some more attention. And I didn't expect it to leave such a lasting effect, but a couple of months later and I'm still thinking about it constantly. So that book definitely surprised me too. Okay, next question. A book that's come out in 2022 already that you want to read but haven't yet. Honestly, I can't think of anything. I don't keep track of new releases. It's not something that interests me. I'd much rather find like gems that have been forgotten about, or like backlist treats. Honestly, when people post their anticipated releases, I don't watch those videos. I'm just not interested. I'm really, really not interested. I'm sure like I will read 2022 releases at some point, but that's going to be from me like going to a bookshop and picking something based on its cover. It's not because I care what is new and what is current. One goal you made for 2022 that you're succeeding at. I have one. So one of my goals for 2022 was to read 12 poetry collections this year. And so far I've read 7. So I'd say that's pretty good going. I also wanted to read some non-fiction every single month, and I've done that so far. So feeling pretty pleased with myself for that too. One goal you made that you need to focus on. I also have one for this. So one of my goals was to read 3 books in Spanish. I feel like I've been letting my Spanish slide a little bit. I haven't been practicing. And so I wanted to prioritize that. I haven't read any yet. I've bought a book that was written in Spanish, but I haven't read it yet. So not doing so well on that front, but I still have time. New to you booktubers, bookstagrammers, booktokers for 2022 that you recommend? Well, I'm not on TikTok. I do have a Bookstagram account, but that's fairly new, so I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that I'm like wildly obsessed with. But booktubers, there are definitely a few that I started watching more this year. It's difficult because I don't keep track of like when I start watching people, but I do have quite a few people I follow. So I'm just gonna share the first few that come to mind that I think I've only been like watching for the past 2 or 3 months. So the first one that comes to mind is Tiff Talks Pages. I love her. Like Like, she is so enthusiastic about the books that she reads, and she's so like careful and thoughtful about the analysis that she gives. Like, she gives the just the right amount of detail. She doesn't give spoilers away. She doesn't like leave too many hints that sort of ruin your enjoyment of the book, but she does like give you some really thoughtful analysis that helps you figure out whether it's something that you want to read. Her channel is 100% romance, so if you're not a romance reader, it probably won't be as delightful for you, unless you're like me. Like, I love to watch channels that focus on a variety of genres. I watch channels that talk about genres that I never ever read, but I still enjoy the creator and I enjoy listening to them talk, and I enjoy having my mind open to different things. So even if you're not a romance reader, I would definitely recommend you check her out. She's a relatively new channel too, but all of her content is like, it's great. Like, she's just got a very engaging presence. She's really like lovable. I definitely like watch every upload that she puts up. So yeah, highly recommend her. Another creator that I love is a Sunny Book Nook. Sunny is just a fun time. They read like really diversely as well, which I love. So you get like the light fluffy romance, but you also get like a communist manifesto, and then you get literary fiction, and then you get like speculative sci-fi. There's like just all kinds, and I love following like omnivore readers, because that's what I consider myself to be too. Even though recently I've been going through like a bit of a romance phase and reading predominantly romance, big picture wise, I read from a variety of like authors, genres, styles, formats, and so I like following people who have that about them too, and Sunny definitely does. They're also very, very thoughtful in the way that they comment on the books. Like, it's never just an emotional like, I liked this, I didn't. There's actually like thought that goes into like picking apart what it was that really worked, what it was that didn't, and like who would enjoy this book and who wouldn't. And I really appreciate that, because it's never or at least in the videos that I've seen, they're never saying like, this book is pure trash, don't read it, but they are being very clear about who it is meant for and who it is not. So I find that really helpful. They also recommend a lot of great books that I've never heard of, which I always appreciate, because I get bored to tears when everybody is just always hyping up the same books, and it's very rare that a book I see on Sunny's channel has been mentioned elsewhere, so that's what makes it one of my favourites. Another channel that I love and is Alexandria the Great. Alexandria doesn't necessarily upload as frequently as the others that I've mentioned, but her videos are still really nice. She just has this very like chilled, calming presence. Like, she's very sweet, she's very lovely, she's very gentle in the way she talks about things, and it's very relaxing to watch her videos. But again, I also love that for the most part, the books that she mentions I've never heard of, and I've actually purchased a few books based on her recommendations, and I don't do that often. Like, I don't typically buy things that I've seen talked about on YouTube, but I don't know, there's something in the way she like presents her recommendations to you that just makes them seem really enticing. And then last but not least, I have to mention Reading with Matthew. He's just so much fun. Like, he predominantly reads romances and thrillers, but I love that he's so no nonsense and will just give it to you straight. He doesn't sugarcoat his opinions. If he doesn't like something, he will explain exactly why. If he does, he will do the same. And I feel like we're friends. Like, when I watch his videos, I feel like we're just sort of like sitting on the couch, drinking a cocktail, having a chit chat, and I love that. Like, it just feels really informal and really personable. So yeah, those are 4 channels that I really, really rate: Tiff Talks Pages, Sunny Book Nook, Alexandria the Great, and Reading with Matthew. I think if I look at my general taste, like, I love people who read different types of books. I love people who are really enthusiastic about their book choices and are very certain in their opinions too, but I also love it when they can give you like a balanced analysis and like sort of clear thoughts on how it applies to you and not just how it applies to their opinion. And I think that all of these creators tick all of those boxes. I also only really follow people that I think I would be friends with in real life, and they tick those boxes too. So that was a lot of talking. Anyway, there you have it, my quarter year reading crisis book tag thing. Hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear from you in the comments. So tell me, what has your reading highlight of 2022 been so far? Drop me a comment, do the likes, the subscribes, all that stuff if you wanna, and I will see you next time in my next video.